There's no more room in hell. Podcasters will talk about it. Scream now, scream later, scream never. It's time for Summer Slash. In fact, it's Summer Slash 4. Keep telling yourself it's only a podcast.
Oh boy, scariest podcast intro ever recorded in the history of podcasts. It's to announce that Summer Slash 4 is here. This is like the third week running of our horror film festival on the podcast. However, we can't just get started right away. Usually there's 3 of us here. You might have noticed if you're watching the video, there's only 2, and you only hear 2 voices, even though David hasn't said anything yet. He's trying to give me trying to have patience and let me get all this crap out that I want to throw out at the beginning. Dave, do you remember that there used to be this urban legend that if you went to a party and if you're the first one to fall asleep at the party, you get a dick drawn on your face?
That's not an urban legend. I've been at those parties.
You've been to those parties. So, okay, this used to be a thing that just happened at parties, folks. And nobody got mad. Nobody Me Too'd. Nobody sued. Nobody pressed charges. People took pictures. I mean, it might have been like early internet. I don't know if they got posted to Facebook back then, but this was a normal party rule. Actually, I think like everybody participated, so maybe it's not is it a crime if you participate? Maybe. I don't know. Like, who knows? What's the morality of drawing dicks on your buddy's face, you know?
I don't know. Kind of depends on your
You're like, I don't know. The only reason we bring up drawing phallic symbols on your friends' faces when they fall asleep at a party is because what do you do on a podcast when your co-host doesn't show up to podcast with you? I mean,
well, are we sure she hasn't been slashed? I mean,
because it's Summer Slash, and we said the host could drop off like flies at any time.
Yeah, I mean, this could be our first body count.
Dang! But what do you say? Should we just start the show?
Yeah, I mean, if our buddy's gone, we got to honor them by going on, I guess.
The show must go on. That's the golden rule, right?
Yeah.
There is a rule on this show that if you don't show up, you get teased. But I know people don't really tease anymore. That's like a negative thing too. You can't like make fun of your friends. That's like a new thing. I basically just made myself sound like a total jerk for the last 3 minutes. But okay, now let's play the theme song and get this show started. Here we go. Maybe.
Crack open a cold box of wine or pour something cold on ice because it's the Binge-Watchers podcast.
You know, the thing I thought about, David, was like outside of the podcast, you know, I go to these business meetings. I talk about I'm a digital marketer. I can do your social media. You want to start a podcast? I can help you with that. That's in my regular life, trying to earn the cash, right? Got to keep the gas tank full. But I realized if the only thing on my resume is this podcast, and then they tune into that part where I'm like, he went to a party and drew a dick on his face. Hired right away. You know, like... If it's out of context, who the hell knows what's going to happen? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just keep telling yourself it's only a podcast, folks. Right, Dave?
Anybody could take any snippet out of any episode and take it out
of
these
context. Days, right? Oh, yeah, totally. We used to have a disclaimer. Maybe it's still there. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it. So tonight's, guess not tonight's movie. I almost jumped into tonight's movie.
We're not there
Headlines. Yeah. Welcome to Deadly Dastardly home video headlines for Summer Slash. Neve Campbell exits Scream 6 over contract issues. Scream 6 is also bringing back Hayden Panettiere. Rumor has it that Scream 6 will also feature the most violent version of Ghostface. And I read today in somebody else's headline, but I'll steal it. I'll provide it to you right now. But they're going to go to New York City. Kind of like Friday the 13th, Part 8.
I was going to say, that's a little dangerous, isn't it? Like you're kind of setting yourself up for failure.
What, going to New York City with the horror movie?
Well, yeah, I mean, just because Jason, I mean, either this could go one of two ways. It could either go terribly, because like Friday the 13th, Jason Goes to Manhattan, or it could be a meta take on it where the characters keep commenting like
They references they're gonna have to reference Friday the 13th Part 8, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the Scream world, they can, because Scream exists in the regular world, and all of their horror movies are on the shelf. Was my general understanding that they've referenced a bunch of popular horror movies already, right? So
yeah,
especially when Randy was still alive in the first couple of movies.
Well, they've been movie heavy. I mean, each character. I mean, even in the last one, the whole thing was a commentary on legacy sequels and
the other thing is like, I know you're not happy with social media, but I'm on there every once in a while fiddling around with these little videos to talk about our podcast or whatever else that I might be watching, and I'll do little clips. But I was gonna make a video about Scream 6 and the contract thing, like the Neve Campbell thing. I was like, man, I see two sides of this argument. Like, I see Neve Campbell asking for more money and wanting it and having a contract go badly. But on the other hand, I'm a working class Joe like everybody else who's listening to the podcast and trying to make their own as well, make their way through the world. And like, all your money is going into a gas tank right now, and you're just trying to pay your bills or whatever and put food on the table and take care of your shit. And so you don't want to hear a celebrity complain about a fucking paycheck. You know what I mean? Well, like, there's two sides of the argument here. But then I also have this opinion, though. You deserve to get paid what you're asking, like what you're worth, you know?
Well, right. I mean, and she's kind of in a unique situation where I don't, she's let's face it, these are the only things. Well, I don't know if that's fair to say, but I mean, I'd wager that Scream is the only thing keeping her career alive, because I don't see her in I think she was in the movie Skyscraper with The Rock like a few years ago, but other than that, she doesn't seem to work that often. I don't know if that's by choice or if she's just done with Hollywood. But like that series kind of rests on her back. I mean, it is the Sidney Prescott story, basically.
Yeah.
So
it's married to her. Now I think like the studio is probably kicking themselves for not killing her character off in the last one. They're like, we're gonna write her out off screen now.
But some are saying, and I don't know that I don't know if this is where my opinion falls, but some are saying she's just being vocal about it to kind of put pressure and let the fans kind of like start weighing in and putting pressure on the studio to like, hey, pay what she's owed. I mean, she's not going to get a ton of paydays. I mean, yeah, I'd fight for, getting a better payday on this. And, maybe she's also just done with the series. She's just like, all right, we've told that story 5 times. Like how much more can we keep going to that? Well, I don't know.
I don't know. They're just going to create relatives to the other dead characters, and it'll just go on forever. Netflix has scooped up the global streaming rights to a Taiwanese horror blockbuster called Incantation. It's going to be released worldwide on July 8th, assuming it'll be streaming as well. Or that's what they mean by that, hopefully, I guess. I don't know. Because a lot of Netflix movies don't end up in the theater. Sometimes they do if they're promoting award season. But This one's also being dubbed the scariest Taiwanese movie ever. It's their top grossing original horror film from Taiwan. I didn't even know that Taiwan was big on horror movies, really. So
I can't remember, but I think the most the big hit on Shudder right now, The Sadness, I think that's Taiwanese.
I thought that was Korean. No,
I could be wrong. Because I wanted to say I looked it up and it was Taiwanese, and it took I don't know. Maybe I have to look that up. But
let's not misquote Dave. Just keep talking. I'm trying to Google it.
Okay. Which actually, I mean, this is we're not talking. The main feature tonight is not The Sadness, but
it's not The Sadness. Yeah, we have facts.
But you gotta check that movie out.
No, it says Taiwan. It does say Taiwan.
Oh, damn!
All signs point to being
correct. I didn't even know we were gonna get down that road.
There is a rumor mill though that tonight's movie is Fear Street, and actually they said we might be getting a Fear Street series coming down the road.
Yeah, I'd be down.
My mic is popping.
Got a lot of source material.
So excited, or the mic's broke.
What's that?
Who the hell knows? I said you're right. My mic is popping a little bit.
Oh shit. Well, there's a lot of, if they do a series, they sure got a lot of material to draw from, which I'll get into that when we get to facts.
Yeah, because tonight's movie is in fact Fear Street 94. What happens in this movie? After a series of brutal slayings, a teen and her friends take on an evil force that's plagued their notorious town for centuries. It's part of a film event trilogy on Netflix based on R.L. Stine's Fear Street. That was R.L. Stine, sorry. Mispronounced his name. Anyway, it's his Fear Street books, which are basically Goosebumps for Grown Ups.
basically.
And Dave has some deadly details about this freaking film trilogy. What's up, Dave?
So, this I had to dig a little into this. I knew this was a book series. I've never actually read it, but the Fear Street book series, like John said, created by Goosebumps' if I'm saying that right, Goosebumps R.L. Stine. The series started in 1989, and there are 13 spin-off series. There's a grand total of 163 books across all the series that are some form of Fear Street. I couldn't believe there was that many books with this.
That's a lot, dude.
In this series. Yeah. They're not all written by R.L. Stine. A lot of them are ghostwriters, apparently. But so attempts to turn the books into a movie go back to 97 when Hollywood Pictures got the film rights, and in the hopes, coincidentally, to make a Scream-like film series. Of course, nothing came of that. Also in 97, a TV pilot was produced. The pilot was aired as a special called Ghosts of Fear Street, but low ratings just caused it not to move past the pilot. They just gave up on it.
Sounds like a Nickelodeon show.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, or like Goosebumps back in the day.
Yeah. Well, this is just, like I said, Goosebumps for Grown Ups. So the TNA that you can't get in Goosebumps is just splashed into Fear Street. That's how it works.
You get it here, yeah. So this trilogy was actually produced and filmed in 2019 and was produced by 20th Century Fox with the intention of releasing it 1 month apart theatrically in 2020. Well, of course, the pandemic hit, and which caused the theatrical release to be put on hold. And in the meantime, the production company for Fear Street, Churn-In Entertainment, lost their deal with 20th Century Fox, but they struck a new deal with Netflix, and they put it out on Netflix 1 week apart versus 1 month apart each in the summer of 2021. So a year late, but 1 week after another. So spoiler alert, but there is a bread slicer kill in this movie, which is an homage to an 80s movie called Intruder, where something similar happens. The head of the art department was adamant that a bread slicer would never cut through a human head. But the director proved them wrong by actually buying a bread slicer and a watermelon, going through it without any problem. So kind of shut them up.
It's possible they're sharper than meat slicers.
Probably.
It looks more brutal.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, that's probably going to be everybody's favorite kill, but we don't know. We'll get back to that in a minute, but first we're going to go to the messages. We'll be right back after these messages. Look, we've all heard of Netflix and chill, but sometimes it's not that easy to chill when you're dealing with ED. That's why there's Eddie, a revolutionary device designed to help with symptoms of erectile dysfunction. Designed by urologists, Eddie is an FDA Class 2 medical device that has been shown to help men increase intimacy levels with their partners. If you're looking for an easy way to boost your confidence in the sheets, give Eddie a try and put your performance anxiety to bed. Right now, you can save 20% on Eddie. Go to buyeddie.com/binge-watchers and use that code BINGE20 for 20% off. Fast forward your way past performance issues and try Eddie today. Again, that's buyeddie.com/binge-watchers and use the code BINGE20 for 20% off. Try Eddie today. Now back to the podcast, already in progress with Dangerous Dave. Johnny Spoiler, about to spoil our favorite kills from Fear Street 1994.
Yeah, well, I think you kind of said it. It's definitely the one that stuck out in my head. The bread slicer.
I think you stuck that in your 5 facts to jump everybody's favorite kill, so nobody could take it. You're like, I'll just put it in here as fact number 5. Yeah, you did it on purpose.
Yeah, that's sure. We'll roll with that. No, I thought it was an interesting fact that, like, oh no, you're not going to get a head through that. All right, well, I'll prove you wrong. No, go ahead.
No, it's your turn.
Oh, well, no, I'm just going to say not that there's anything wrong with the rest of the kills or slashes in it, but everything feels very standard until this one. This feels like the most creative kill in the movie.
It's very creative.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the,
but they're doing tropes. Like, what I love about this movie is, like, if you're a fan of slasher movies, you're going to love it because they're homaging, like, every major slasher as much as they can, every possible way. And it feels like scary movies to tell in the dark it has that kind of tone and vibe and style. It reminds me of Freaky and Happy Death Day. It's kind of like a self-aware slasher, right? Because even the kids are referencing slasher movies and all the other mythology in the town about like every 10 years there's a serial killer in this town. And I mean, it's pretty good. It's like a witch possesses dead bodies of your friends and they come after you, but they start to turn into these historical killers, right? Like one is the guy from the campground, right? With an axe and a thing over his head. And then there's like a girl with a straight edge razor. And then there's the kid with the skeleton mask who's hacking people. And he was a video store clerk in the beginning of the movie, but then he becomes like the first possessed victim. And then he kills his friend. And then from there, it's a bloodbath. The movie also includes that thing that I love, which is when the friends are working together to try to stay alive and then it all goes to shit.
Yeah, it feels very much. I mean, watching it this time, that aspect of it felt very much like a 1980s Spielberg produced movie. It felt like the Goonies had to like take on a serial killer. You know, like,
which that would make a great movie. Like, hey, like if you pitched a movie like, hey, it's the Goonies, but the Goonies get killed, and it's a bloodbath. You know, that's a good movie pitch. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and this movie, I mean, each movie, you know, we're not covering the next one, but the next movie in the series is, really more of a 80s,
See, I think you were going to outline the other two movies in your facts description. I thought you were going to say, like, the next one's in 1970, whatever, and the next one's in 1666.
I assumed we were going to have our partner here who I thought maybe was going to watch them all, and that would lead to that discussion, so I left it out, but
sure.
Yeah, no, the next one, I mean, the 78, I didn't get to watch it again, but I remember it being my favorite of the three when I watched it last year. This one and 78 are neck and neck. I mean, this one definitely feels like, again, Scream. I mean, it's meant to. I mean, the opening 10 minutes is meant to be, close to the original Scream's 10 minutes with Drew Barrymore eating it early. This one, I mean, it's Maya Hawke from Stranger Things, so of course everybody's like, "Oh, it's the girl from Stranger Things."
Yeah, that's what's funny about Netflix, Dave, is they like work like an old studio factory where they have the contracted players. Like, I wonder if their contracts say. I have a speculation that the Netflix contracts for actors say that they have to appear in other Netflix properties.
I would buy that, except these movies were produced before they were bought by Netflix. I mean, unless Stranger Things was so popular, they're like, all right, shoot an opening scene with Maya Hawke now. I could see that happening.
I guess you got me on that one, but I've seen it happening in other Netflix shows and movies.
Oh, yeah. But that's an old thing. I mean, that's not new and exclusive to Netflix. I mean, back in the day when you'd have a TV show where they're like, hey, that character from that TV show is on now this episode of this TV show. Like Full House and Family Matters crossovers or stuff like that. So that's not that unusual. Not
crossovers. I'm talking about like consistency of like 5 movies made by the same company with generally the same actors. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's also just contract players. I mean,
yeah, but they don't do that anymore. Well, not since like the 40s, 50s, 60s. Maybe
well, no, of
80s,
course not. But I mean, they still. No, actually, that's not entirely true because they still once in a while. Maybe they're not as common now, but even somebody like Edward Norton had to like fight Paramount because he was still under contract. Like that's why he did that movie, The Italian Job, because he was he had like a 3-picture deal. So it doesn't happen as often, but it still does happen. So I could see. I'm just trying to back up what you're saying. I think they are doing stuff like that. Like, hey, you're a Netflix star, so now you have to star in this Netflix movie or this other Netflix series. Yeah, I totally buy that.
The other thing I wanted to bring up for our fans and for listeners is we have several copies of this new horror movie called Unhuman. We're doing a giveaway, so if you tell us in the comments your favorite horror movie, if you want us to review one, send us an email. If you go shoot us a nice review of the podcast, either on iTunes, Podchaser, or comment on CastBox, find us somewhere. You can even interact with us on YouTube. Then we'll hook you up with a free copy of a movie that's being described as like Breakfast Club with zombies. All I know is really it's about a young girl and her friends. They take on these monsters or whatever, which sounds similar to this other movie we covered called Neon Maniacs a couple weeks ago.
Right.
If you're so vague, it sounds exactly the same. A couple teenagers take on some monsters. That's about it. Could even be like the first Ghoulies movie or something.
I was gonna say that's like a ton of movies from the 80s.
Yeah, it could be like every horror movie ever made. But take a look at it, folks. All right,
check it out.
What else is going on? We don't have any Cursed Staff picks because we were fully diving into Fear Street, and I guess I could already say what's happening next week. Holy shit, Dave! Look at that.
Wow, that's.
Oh wait,
this might
actually,
be
no,
the
we got to
shortest
back it up. We
episode
don't
in
have
forever.
any. We need to do our rating system, which is, on a regular binge watchers, you might hear binge now, binge later, binge never. But because it is Summer Slash, for the next couple weeks, it's going to be scream now, scream later, scream never. Exactly that. We'll start with Dave, and we'll jump over to me. What do you got, Dave?
This is tough. I thought I was going to go into a Scream now, but on second viewing, I like this movie, but it didn't hold up as well on a second viewing, so I'm going to say Scream later.
Wow, that's interesting, because I had more fun the second time than I did going into it originally. I still haven't watched part 2 and 3. I probably won't, but I was more enticed to watch part 2 this second viewing of part 1, and there was details I noticed in part 1 this time that I didn't catch on the first go around, which is, generally what happens.
Right.
It's a binge now for me, but would have been a binge later. It's a Scream now for me. Sorry, I fucked up my own system. We actually mentioned Fear Street when it came out because we were considering.
We were watching them as they went along last year. Yeah.
Yeah, we watched it, but it wasn't officially an episode. It was just like a staff.
It was just one of our. Yeah, it was our what we're watching staff.
Because it was like it came out too late to put in the rotation because it's like we didn't have enough time to watch it. So it was like,
and we didn't know if it was going to be good.
Yeah, it could have like really bit the farm, right? It could have been horrible. But there you go. So somewhere in between, you got one extremely positive, one positive. So generally, you're gonna have fun with this movie, folks. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's a B+ or an A-. I mean, it's not. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So check it out. Next week, so there's a lot of pressure for these summer slashes. Usually we go for 12 weeks. It's a shorter year this year. We're doing something a little bit different. It's just 4 weeks, and we're trying to find things that maybe aren't like under everybody's radar, or like we're really digging around, because we could do traditional slashers. We could do outer space horror movies. If you listen to us for a long time, you know that our bread and butter is horror movies. We love it. You love it. We talk about it all the time. So it's like, we just don't want to do just the, you could literally just do a Friday the 13th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You could just do the normal shit, or find the movies that everybody's reviewing on YouTube, and it'd all be the same. But so I put a lot of pressure on myself to try to find titles this year, since it was only going to be a 4-episode run as opposed to 12. You really don't have a lot of time to make screw ups. I mean, that's what's funny is like we go in blind on these movies, so we usually have some duds in there, but usually we can find a handful of good movies, right?
Yeah.
But this year it's like we got to be real careful. What are we doing? And I discovered a horror movie, like executive produced by Mel Brooks. So produced by Mel Brooks' company with Bill Paxton and Michael Ironside, and then there's a character actor named Marshall Bell, who people might remember as the deviant coach in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, and Quado, the leader mutant in freaking Total Recall. I told Dave if he saw the guy, he'd know who this guy was. He's a guy that pops up in a lot of stuff, either in the late 70s, 80s, early 90s, maybe early 2000s. He might still be working. I don't know.
Yeah, I looked him up. He's what I call like that guy actor, because
yeah, exactly.
There's tons of those where you maybe not know the name, but when you look at him, like, oh yeah, I remember.
To the fact that they started making documentaries about that guys, you know what I mean? Like you've seen him
Dick
everywhere.
Miller. Dick Miller is like the ultimate that guy actor, and they made a whole movie about him.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, it's a movie called The Vagrant, and Marshall Bell plays the Vagrant, and he looks really screwed up on the cover and the poster. And to be fair, I wanted to end it kind of on a high note, so I've evaluated the movie, and I can predict which way Dave and Jordan will go with this movie, but I'll hold it off till next week. Other than that, thanks for slashing another week with us, folks. Tune in again for the finale of Summer Slash. It's coming, David. It's next week, bro. We're already there.
It's a finale already. Oh yeah,
the finale, the fatal finale. We might not all make it. Dave said it earlier. We might not get out of this one this year. Actually, summer's here, and so instead of blowing off classes, people are blowing off podcasts. That's how it is. I slicked one in there at the end, Dave.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Hope she comes back safe.
Yeah. Never can tell. What are you looking forward to? Any predictions on the Vagrant?
Knowing its pedigree, I'm sure it's going to be at the very least is going to be a binge later. I don't see this being a binge never. I mean, excuse me, slash never.
You mean now? Like a Scream now? You're saying a
Damn it!
Scream later?
I keep saying slash. What I mean to say is, I think.
You screwed it up so much, I just thought I would play you off.
That's fine. We
So
need.
you're-
I think we
you're-
need to come up with like a different take on binge now, binge later. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, like
What do you mean?
if we do a whole series on like sports movies again, it'd be like, all right, or golf movies, like, all right, putt now, putt later, like just change it up each time just to screw.
You mean you want the
up.
rating system to be changed for every theme that we run, like every season?
Just to screw
Wow.
everybody else up.
Oh yeah, but the binge now is so iconic that we all are like trained to say it now. You know what I'm saying? Like we can't even change it for Summer Slash. We're like, oh yeah, binge. Oh crap, I'm supposed to say Scream.
Well, we're even
crap.
saying in our personal conversations, like, oh yeah, I saw that movie the other day. I mean, it's a binge later, but I mean, it's
Yeah, we're really using it. That's how good it is, folks. Forget this 1 through 10 5-star bullshit. Just go binge now, binge later, binge never. It's perfect.